Okay, I have checked my sample on the microscope and I like how it looks, and I'm going to move on to the next grit, 400. It's important to be sure and rinse before moving from 320 to 400 or another grit. Otherwise, grit sizes at the 320 mesh will get onto this and scratch your sample. So you rinse between every grinding phase. Now, if I had my sample oriented this way on the 320 grit, I'm now going to turn it 90 degrees and orient it this way on the 400 grit. I'll hold it in place with my right hand and apply a small pressure with my left hand. And I probably need to stay at this grit for about 1 minute. But again, I'm concerned about bias in my hold, so after 30 seconds, I'm going to stop and rotate my sample 180 degrees to eliminate any bias. Alright, I'm going to look at this on the microscope. Now, the volume of water, when you're not using it, you can actually turn them off back here. And the volume of water you want is, you don't want so much that you'll hydroplane your sample, just a little bit. It's for cooling. So you can turn it up or down accordingly. Alright, I'm going to go rinse my sample and look on the microscope. This is what I see in the microscope after grinding at 400 grit. Now all the ruled lines are vertical. I do not see any horizontal lines, indicating that I have removed the entire layer that was horizontal. And this indicates I'm ready to move on to the next grit. Okay, so now you can see why we change our orientation, because then when we look at the final results in the microscope, if all our lines have changed from parallel to vertical, then we know we've removed one layer at that grit. So now I'm going to move on to 600 and change my orientation again to horizontal. I'm going to do this one a short while so maybe we can see a mixed pattern on the microscope. This is an example where the sample has both horizontal and vertical lines, and it indicates I am not finished and I need to grind longer at 600. Okay, so since we can see on the microscope we still have both vertical and horizontal grit on the sample, I'm going to go a little longer at 600 grit. Okay, I'm gonna check this. After more time at 600 grit, now all the lines are horizontal again. I have removed the vertical layer and I'm ready to move on to the next grit size. Okay, now that I'm satisfied with 600, I'll go on to 800. Change my orientation to vertical and hold it on here for about a minute. There's not so much of a worry about facets at such a fine grit as 800. Sample should start to look like a mirror once you're at 800 grit. So let's rinse this and go look at it on the microscope. After grinding at 800 grit, now the sample appears like a mirror and the microscope shows the sample to be appearing white because of all the reflected light. Because the distance between the grit lines now is on the order of magnitude of wavelength of light, 800 nanometers, the sample now reflects light all in one direction and the sample looks white and appears like a mirror. Once you have this, you are ready to move on to polish. Once you are finished with grinding and polishing, you want to put your sample in the desiccator to stay dry. The desiccators are located on the furnace side of the lab. These cabinets here have desiccator in the bottom. Be sure and label your samples with your group number or your name, and close the door, and that'll be there for you next week when you return.